One of the most fascinating storylines to come out of the 2016 presidential election was the rise of the alt-right. We wouldn't have the Steve Bannons and Milo Yiannopoulos of the world without the support of the alt-right. But where did this new faction of the Republican Party stem from? Many pundits point to the online community inhabiting 4chan. So what is this mysterious online community that's been tied to Gamergate, the alt-right, and even the online hacktivist group Anonymous? Tyrell Ventura recently sat down with Gabrielle Coleman, anthropologist and author of the book Hacker, Hoaxer, Whistleblower, Spy, The Many Faces of Anonymous. He started by asking her just how the world of 4chan began and who and what is behind it.
It was founded in 2003 by Christopher Poole, and he was modeling it on a Japanese image board called 2chan. And what's distinctive about the image board, 2chan and 4chan, is that every person posts anonymously. There's no registered, persistent real name or nickname. And then also, people would also include an image, and that's why it's called an image board. And then finally, another kind of distinctive feature of the image board is the kind of quick pace of posting, where people, there'd be initially hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of people posting on different boards with different topics, from fitness to anime, and it was ephemeral. So your post wouldn't necessarily last into the future unless it was archived.
That's interesting. Now, who are the people that generally make up this community, both early on and kind of moving into today? When did it start? Like, when did 4chan really hit? Like, what year did it start?
I mean, it was founded in 2003, okay. And it was a very more esoteric subcultural board that was populated by different types of internet geeks and nerds, which stretch from computer gamers to designers to hackers to other kind of unknown parties. But it wasn't really until roughly 2007 or 8 where people outside of kind of geeky quarters of the internet started to learn about 4chan. And they started to learn about 4chan for, I would say, 2 main reasons. One of which was the creation of internet memes. And internet memes are stock photos, videos, or images that then get recombined, remixed, recirculated. And 4chan was really quite famous for the creation of internet memes, most famously initially lolcats, which were cute cat pictures with nonsensical or funny captions. And so that's one reason why 4chan became famous. And another reason was because 4chan was home to very pronounced forms of internet trolling. And for those that may not know, internet trolling is kind of a form of pranking. It could be sometimes quite lighthearted. It can be quite vicious. And on 4chan, the name Anonymous became a collective name for different people to use to organize trolling raids. And some of the trolling raids in 2007 and 2008 became particularly famous outside of the board.
Yeah, and one of those raids was their kind of trolling raid on the Church of Scientology, and that's, if I'm correct, that's kind of where the idea of Anonymous as we know it today kind of sprang forth. Am I right in that?
I mean, that's right. It existed before as a name that these geeks and nerds and trolls were using, but it kind of hit the pierced public consciousness precisely with this campaign. And it also was important because this was the moment that the name changed course and changed history. Because initially it was a trolling campaign against the Church of Scientology, sort of getting back at the church for censoring a very famous video of Tom Cruise that had gone viral. And it was a video of Tom Cruise kind of praising the Church of Scientology. The Church of Scientology wanted it gone from the internet. They threatened journalists and publishers with a lawsuit if they didn't take it down. So Anonymous went into this massive campaign to troll the Church of Scientology. But through this campaign, there was kind of a discussion to protest the Church of Scientology, not simply prank them and embarrass them, but maybe really emphasize their human rights abuses. And that's precisely what happened. Enough people kind of decided to organize street protests against the Church of Scientology using the name Anonymous. And not long after, the name Anonymous started to be used for activism, hacktivism, as well as trolling.
And that's what's kind of interesting, and that's also that street protest with Scientology. That was also kind of where suddenly the Guy Fawkes mask became a symbol of Anonymous as well, because nobody really wanted to be, you know, they didn't want to show their identities obviously at this protest, because that's kind of 4chan's thing, is that you can kind of anonymously be there and, you know, be whoever you want to be really on the site.
So that's precisely it. The Guy Fawkes mask, which is almost synonymous with Anonymous today, actually really came into being during that protest. I mean, there's a little bit of a micro history. I won't get into the details, but this was the moment, right? And precisely, it was both to be true to the anonymity of the board, and also people were concerned that the Church of Scientology, its members, would take high definition photos of protesters. So this was a way to protect them. And what was so fascinating about this moment, which I watched unfold, was it was kind of so dramatic to see hundreds of people, sometimes thousands, for example, in LA, where there were very large protests, take on the Guy Fawkes mask against the Church of Scientology. All of a sudden, you felt like V for Vendetta, the graphic novel, and then the film, was coming into being. Like fiction became real life. And all of a sudden, that symbol really stuck and became the icon for Anonymous.
Now, is in the kind of inner workings of Anonymous, is there a group mentality, or is it kind of, you know, just a collection of individuals? I mean, is there an organizational structure, or is it really just kind of like the internet, kind of everyone just jumps in and does their thing under this kind of more banner of Anonymous?
Depending on the moment and the time and the network, it's maybe a little bit of both. I mean, there is definitely, in the kind of activist nodes of Anonymous, a very strong commitment to never amass fame for yourself. And so there's a very strong anti-celebrity thrust. So it's a kind of cultural ethic that connected many different nodes. It's also the case with the activist groups. There was some degree of structure, not a kind of traditional structure, but if you wanted to get anything done, you had to have kind of people willing to put in a lot of work. They became known quantities. They developed reputations. And then when hackers in particular became very important in Anonymous, and this was especially the case in 2011, these small groups commanded a lot of power. But the name is very flexible. And it precisely meant that in different moments, in different times, people just took the name to launch maybe a one-off operation or to create a new node in a different part of the world. So there was an enormous amount of mutability and flexibility precisely because the name was there for anyone to take.
What would you say have been some of like Anonymous's most, let's say, brilliant moments and most less than stellar moments over the years since its inception?
The Church of Scientology raid, I think, was really important. I would include that in there only because critics of the Church of Scientology were always very fearful of the church. And the anonymous contribution allowed critics to basically take off the mask themselves and to be able to criticize the church more publicly. So they really had an impact there. I think another one of their really lasting legacies, which had some really dramatic moments, had to do with certain computer hacks against organizations. And one in particular was one against H.B. Gary, which was a security firm that was trying to out members of Anonymous to the FBI. So Anonymous took massive revenge. And in one night, they kind of completely infiltrated the organization, took all the emails, put them on the Pirate Bay, deleted everything. And basically, that was important for a couple of reasons. First of all, it motivated the hackers to keep hacking in that vein. So it kind of flung open that door. And then, you know, today we see a lot of these leaks that come from hacking. And I actually think Anonymous made that possible in some ways, and that was the pivotal hack. In terms of some of their kind of ugly moments, sometimes, for example, with the Ferguson protests in Missouri, they claimed that they had the name of the officer who shot Michael Brown, and it was wrong. And so sometimes when they put information out there, it's incorrect.